today I was gonna mess around with some Gobo techniques, lighting stuff. I think I talked about it sometimes previously during. Let me get the window back open. Um, During some of the other cool zones or just lightings and stuff like that. What I had been doing was using a texture with Redshift or with any light inside of Houdini or anything like that. You can just put in any image and it will just use the luminance or the intensity to modulate the spotlight. So that's what I had been doing previously, but today I was going to try out actually modeling some geometry and seeing kind of what results you get with that. I feel like doing that you might get some better, more accurate shadows and that kind of stuff. So there's a few ways to do it. Let me move this over for a second. Okay. Yeah, so there's a few ways to go about it. I'm just going to, let's just do a new scene. So yeah, we'll get going with I guess just the backdrop. Just do the grid. Saw Paul had his, during the battle, he had his studio backdrop ready to go. So I just usually do grid, bend, 90 degrees. You have kind of like a cyclorama or whatever. And then you can subdivide it if you need additional iterations or like smoothing or whatever. Get that. I think if you want more or less stuff, you just can slide it along the z-axis. If you want a taller backdrop or whatever. So maybe one, I might do like a little bit more base subdivision stuff. Could maybe even do, doesn't need to be as wide as that. So this will be the backdrop. Put the camera in, just control click on the shelf tool to add a camera from your current point of view. I'm just gonna do the zero out some of these parameters. All right. So then we'll just make like a subject or something to look at. So it'll just be test. What do you guys want to render? Or what do you want to squab? Rubber toy? Pig head? Pig? Let me see if I can do this. Pig is always the answer. Let's see. They added some new ones. So there's the head. Tommy. Tommy's a pretty chunky boy. Squab. Pig. Rubber toy. Let's see. Tommy. Head. Pig. Rubber toy. Squab. All right. So I put a poll in the chat. Let me know if does it show up. Julian, how's it going? Got some pigs in the chat. Utah teapot? Or you do the Utah. I don't know how to add it. Might be too late. You could switch. We'll switch them out at the end if once we get the Gobo and stuff like that set up. Rubber Toy is winning right now. Rubber. Got some votes for Tommy. All these guys are looking the wrong way. Boom. Derobe him. Rubber Toy is the winner, it looks like. So yeah, at the end we can switch these out and take a look at some of the other ones. Vote for a switch node. So I think with platonic solids, this is where I'm usually getting the Utah teapot. I don't know if there might be better models or whatever online. I think this one has, because it's based off of NURBS or whatever, it does have some weird seams. But we'll just get our library here or whatever going. And the pig. Then I think if you do a match size and just do justify Y to min. Let me get the other thing. That's just a quick way to basically say set stuff above the ground plane. So this way you make sure that without it, like, stuff might be submerged or whatever. So it's a pretty cool thing to do. And can just do switch. Let's get all the, whoops, oh dear. Get all the nodes, plug them in, and should be ready to go. I might do like a little 45-degree rotation or something, just so we're not staring down the front of them. Alright. Maybe with the camera, get a bit of a longer lens. I think like 75, somewhere around that range is more of like a portrait photography style lens or whatever. Alright. So this is typical gobos. Also the names we talked about before is like Cucaloris or whatever. I don't know where the I think it's short for cookie or something. There's some weird name like that or whatever. But yeah, people use this on set. I think even it goes back to like theaters or plays. Gobo is easier to pronounce. But yeah, it's a pretty, goes back decades, I'm sure, centuries. Even like theater before cameras were invented or whatever. This is pretty cool here. So yeah, we'll just put down a RS light. And let me think about this here. Okay. Just pop this thing up. Resize windows. And maybe like, all right. Just add a render view. Woody Bomb, thank you for the Twitch Prime. Let's go. So put the light, whoa. Just gonna get this into the bucket mode. Looks like my backdrop here is poking through. We should be pretty good. I'm just gonna take this backdrop and slide it back. Maybe I can just go the other way with it. All right, it's good enough. We'll just make some quick shaders. I feel like the Redshift default shader is a little too reflective or too much like a mirror. We'll do the RS material builder. And then just add some roughness. Should get you closer to kind of like construction paper or cutout paper or something like that. I just feel like usually with the studio backdrops, they're not as reflective. Did it work? I think it's working. All right. Then I'm just do another one for the character, the subject or whatever. The dude, the floater. Just try this and see what happens. This is like number 2. Okay. So with the Gobo, go a little higher with the exposure. Yeah, so the way that I was usually doing is like the lazy way or the quickest way or whatever is if you just do use texture and then whatever map you link up, whatever image. I have a folder of some stuff that's kind of ready to go. Just these like simple cutouts or whatever. By default, they don't do too much like with the area light. I think you either have to go really narrow with the spread so that the light is really focused, or switch your light to a spotlight. And then once you have your light as a spotlight, if you adjust the cone angle, then you can kind of scale the frequency of the projection. So it's like a lens on a camera, like wide angle, that kind of stuff, but it's basically just shrinking or scaling up the texture projection. You get some cool stuff that way. So I'll just save this file, do a new directory for today. What is this, the 10th? Two scenes, and just call this Gobo lighting version 1. So if you guys want to get started playing around with it, there's the file. You won't have this texture map. I think maybe if you search online, I don't know if you can do it, but sometimes if you just type in the file name, you could find it that way. So if you just do that, you should be able to grab it. You can put it in the chat as well. It's like B&H or some sites, some vendors that sell like practical, these are actually things that a photographer would buy and put over their light. You can do the same thing in Houdini. No Genome, how's it going? I'm doing all right. So this is a bit limiting. Like as you can see, you don't have a ton of control over the blurriness of the shadow and stuff like that. So what I'm gonna try, instead of use texture, I'm gonna go back to an area light. If we pop out of this view, just back to a default lighting, go full spread. Maybe the spread, just go a little bit more narrow. Something like that. trying to get lighting that's a little bit more interesting. Could just get started with this. Thank you for the stream. Yes, of course. So I could just do a grid here. I think like to attach a grid to a light, you can just connect it like that, and then you're kind of parenting it. You kind of see it's attached there. It's in the same position. And then if you just do XY plane, it will be oriented like along the light. You could do here, I think, just the Z. Slide this forward in Z space, and then you're moving it like along the direction that the light is pointing in. So this way, you're kind of like physically modeling a gobo or attaching it or whatever. That's just an easier way you don't have to manually like keep repositioning it and moving it around to be in front of the light. You could try this, and then there's other ways to do things here. Like you could do trace maybe. Let's give that a try. So trace will like give you geometry that is polygons extracted from an image texture. If we just look at the Houdini texture folder, you can see that there's like a brick pattern there. Maybe we'll go scale of 3. Just see what happens here. Nothing yet. So I think a big component of this is like how close it is to the light. Might be too big or too small. Let me take a look as well. Sometimes you have to do a divide or resample or something like that. I think redshift. The trace node doesn't necessarily give you like n-gons, or it doesn't give you triangles. So sometimes you have to do divide convex to, looks kind of ugly. But like I think redshift doesn't know what to do with these polygons that are made up of like, this is like an n-gon where it's instead of like a quad or a triangle with 4 edges, this has like infinite edges, or not infinite, but a ton. You can also do like remesh. That will also kind of like make sure it's all triangles. So that might have been the issue. Another thing you can do is just make your light smaller. Do normalize intensity if you don't want to worry about having to always like go in and compensate the like keep adjusting the intensity to compensate for the size. So let's rearrange some of this stuff. Just try this at different sizes, distances. So you can start to see I'm getting something here now. Some bricks. So this is one way that you can get similar effects to the gobo, but you have a bit more control with being able to manually change the distance. You can see you can actually affect like the blurriness or the harshness of these shadows, which is pretty useful. Maybe just leave the scale there. I don't know if it's going to be better to I guess the other option might be to disable the scale down here, and then up at the global level, the object level, you can adjust everything kind of all in one. Something else that might be useful is building out like a tiler. If you do copy and transform, how useful would a cop's workflow be indeed? So yeah, you could link this up with cops to put in, generate a Gobo or a texture like that instead of the indeed instead. Yeah, so if you do cops, you could link it up like that. You could make like a cop network here. Let's see. Usually if I'm doing modeling, I'll do it directly on the geometry, like procedural image generation. I think we can do it here with composite view. Just do a VOP generator. Can do vector, float to vector. Use the cop on the light itself. You could, I don't know, you can link it with Redshift like that, but you might lose some control. It's time for bed. You might lose some control because you no longer can like move it closer or further from the light. But for sure with Redshift you can, with the texture parameter, you could link this to a cop if you do the op colon reference or whatever to the node. So yeah, there's several different ways to do it. If we do, get the X, Y coordinates. It's slightly similar to scaling the image up. You would get different blurriness of the shadow, like the penumbra or whatever. And then if you have like fully 3D or you have grids that are stacked in different distances from the light, then you would start to get some really interesting effects like that. Yeah, so you get a little bit more control this way. It's a little bit more physically based, but it becomes, I guess, a little more tedious because you have to balance and adjust more parameters and everything. You could look at the red channel here. Maybe just make this a square thing. So if you do, I don't know, maybe the sine function. Higher frequency. Get something kind of weird. Just gonna get this away from like the origin or whatever. All right. I don't know if this needs to be in every channel, but this is another option. So you could do cop, the cop path, like that. Go back here. It doesn't work. Now that's cool. I think I just have to move this to the color plane. Did it show it? I guess my noise output was too, the value here isn't very bright or high enough. You could just do a higher amplitude, I guess. So that's why it wasn't showing up or whatever. So yeah, that's another way to do this. You can do these, you could even animate with time. Let me see if I don't need this remesh. I think Redshift can understand it. Let's see. Yeah, it's possible you don't need it. I think I just had the stuff in the wrong place at the start. So yeah, just being able to set the distance of the object from the light, you have a bit more control over like the spread of these things, and then because this is closer to the light here, the shadow is super harsh, and then as the distance and stuff moves further away, you just get some subtle variation over the image. It's probably a good idea to turn on the GI if you really want like full photographic capabilities. Just get some bounce light and stuff like that in the shadows. It's a little bit more realistic. It's pretty cool. So yeah, you can do procedural noises traced off of images. And then I was going to go into setting up like tiling, repetition. So this copy stop, I think the trace stuff by default, it will go into a 1x1 grid. You can see here the size is 0.99 by 0.99. And then it's centered at the origin, or like 0, 0. So with this copy node, by default, if you just use 1 and you're always doing a trace, then you'll know that this will go that way. So this, we'll call this, I guess, columns. Just because it's like, kind of like a spreadsheet or whatever. And then if you do one more, put in the Y, this would be your rows. And then last, just do a match size again. But this time, before I was using it to set things like above the ground or the origin, this time you can just use it to recenter everything. So as you add more columns and rows, it's just extending in the positive direction. So this just moves everything back to be centered at 0, 0 or whatever. I don't know if we need this many. It does add a little bit of like complexity or whatever. It's just more polygons to render. But this way you're able to add in some repetition or whatever. So if you add more of them, make it smaller, then you have a little bit of control over like the frequency of things. Here you go back to the weird procedural thing. This might be super heavy to render. Or it just doesn't like to convex the polygons. Alright, it looks like it's working there. So I think it's just a ton of points or vertices or whatever. Just because this is a weird procedural pattern or whatever, I think it's sampling at a pretty high rate. If you do, I think, resample shapes, maybe with a higher step size, you could get like a lower resolution. Whole faces can also be useful so that it's like the cutout or whatever. I don't know if this might just add the divide. By default with the convex polygons, it will just turn things into triangles. I think that's a little bit more stable with Redshift. So this should, yeah, it's a little bit more faster to render that way. You have complete procedural control over this if you want new seeds. Might have to reboot the Redshift render or whatever. But yeah, you could start to get some interesting stuff. So this is kind of what I was talking about, like, you might have to compensate with the scale, but move it closer, further to the light, you can start to see you have just a different control over like the harshness or the softness of the shadows. Whoops, it's just in the scene. Moved it too far. What happened here? Okay, we'll go 2. Maybe. I don't know. Something like that. Just to add a little bit of interest or whatever to the scene without being too distracting or whatever. I don't know if this light changed some of this stuff with it. So I feel like this is using a area light, adjusting the spread, size, and then the gobo. That's like the complete control over this stuff, as much as you would want. Appears to be more accurate, trickier to set up in more polygons. Yes, I think it's the more advanced way, like looking at if you get really close in on reference images and stuff like that of real gobos, having some variation and stuff like that in the shadows is really nice to have. It's always possible to kind of fake it, like none of these have it, but if you get one of these like tree branch images, you might have to find one that certain, like if you blur certain parts of the image, then you can kind of fake the shadows and stuff like that. This one might be cool. Let me see if I can get it. Maybe just put it, you could try doing it with the link. Just make a copy of the light, go into spot, turn off the shadow catcher thing, and sometimes if you just get rid of the S instead of HTTPS, you just do a HTTP link. I don't know if Redshift can do it. This Mantra can usually pull in the image. Looks like it wasn't able to get it. Sometimes it depends on the website. Certain ones don't work or whatever. I'm just gonna download it. And just get the file path quickly. All right, I think I got it. So you can control it here with just the cone angle, but I think you just lose a little bit of flexibility with, like, just seems like in real life, depending on how close the light is to the tree. I guess if it's the sun, there isn't a ton of variation, but if you have like a plant in front of like a spotlight in an interior scene or something like that, you get a lot more variation or whatever. Especially like coming in through the window, like bouncing around is, I don't know, it's just super hard to replicate some of those subtleties and stuff like that. Let's just keep going here. We're just gonna turn this light off, go back to our original area light, grid light, and do another trace. So this one, Blake Catherine, thank you for the raid. Let's go. I hope you had a good stream. If anyone in here, hopefully everyone in here is following Blake Catherine. She's doing some amazing still lifes. She's doing some portraits recently. So I'm just gonna put in this file path. We're making messing around with like light blockers today to look at different ways to add like some dramatic stuff or whatever to images. I don't know if there's an easy way to invert this stuff. So yeah, let me just wire it up. Let's see what happens here. I think my sizing is off. So this is a case where I'd want it inverted or whatever. It's possible maybe just doing grid. It's not, I don't know if that's going to be the best way to do it. Just going to go back to my weird pattern or whatever that I generated. Let's see what happens. All right. It's working again. So the other thing is moving stuff around in 3D space. We do attribute noise. This is just a quick way to add variation or noise to any attribute. By default, it adds like distortion to the color. If you change it to P for position, then you start to distort the actual coordinates or whatever of it. Do this. And just increase the amplitude. It's going to be a little weird, but just see what happens. So I'm trying to get some more interesting variations of like depth or whatever in this Gobo Cucaloris. So yeah, this could be a good way to go about it if you just try different numbers or whatever. Can start to get, I don't know if it would take a while, but you can start to get something that goes across our subject. We have a few different friends, subjects that we're working with today. So using this switch node by default, all of these come with Houdini or whatever. These different people, it's Tommy, the strong man. And doing the default, the Utah teapot, pig, the infamous Houdini pig head. So yeah, if you want to get the updates, I'll do another file share. So here's a link to my scene file. If there's new people from the raid, this is just like a share of the current Houdini session or whatever. You should be able to, you could download it and save it locally. There's more advanced ways with scripts and stuff like that to like sync it more quickly. But I'm guessing the majority of people coming from Lake Catherine probably are cinema people. But just to have it, if you're interested, you could get the file there. Or maybe we'll try some other geometry as well, just like a box. Just get more back to basics. Then I'll try, because this pattern is being generated procedurally, like the noise generator inside of Houdini. I think this is the composite view or whatever inside of Houdini. This is like just a image generator using noises or whatever. Yeah, it should work for free. The one catch is like with the Redshift plugin. On my laptop, I don't have Redshift installed, and I did try like pulling in one of these links, and you get a bunch of errors, like warnings or whatever. It will still work. You can still view like the gobos and that stuff should load, but might be a little bit of a struggle. So in my extra component, like the Z component or whatever, I think if I just do time and play, you can get some animation of the texture. If I just lower the frequency in that component, maybe a little more stable. So this is going to be the texture that gets projected on the box or in my scene. Do maybe, I think that frequency was good, but maybe just like the roughness. The noise is a little too crunchy. Okay. So I want to see what happens here. I'll just go into the Redshift, do some quick, God, that gear, it likes to hide. Just do some quick post corrections. So we'll do the f-stop, higher exposure. Maybe go back, I don't know, the floating pool character was a pretty good one. Okay. So I'll just go to my Redshift render settings. It'd be pretty low res, rough draft settings. I just want to see what this looks like with the animation or whatever. It's going to be pretty noisy. So yeah, the idea is that this would kind of simulate like a tree or branches or something like that. Before I was using these types of images as like textures or whatever on lights, just to drive the intensity, like a projection or spotlight projection or whatever. But I was interested to see what would happen. This might be too fast. It's hard to dial this stuff in because like just looking at the texture in this space, the changes don't look that drastic, but then when the light's shining through it, it's pretty jarring or whatever. I'm just gonna go back and change the speed of the noise evolution. Just go like a quarter speed, somewhat. I don't know, that might even be too quick. Let's see what happens here in the 3D view. Might be my resampling step size is like messing stuff up too much. I don't know if those shapes popping in and out are what's causing the flickering. Let me try maybe, I'm just gonna do a time shift to do like a frame hold here. We'll just remove the animation for right now. And then with this noise, do the animation here. And then you just do a longer pulse duration to have it going more slowly. Let's try that. Could be a little bit less like flickery or surprising to look at. So yeah, by earlier streams I was just projecting the image, but some of my let me see if like I don't know what search parameters to type in. It seems like a lot of product photography or stuff like that has this type of effect in it. But doing my old, just projecting an image with a spotlight, like I wasn't getting as much control as I wanted to. I guess like this kind of thing you could get projecting the light through a spotlight, but then getting like more variation in the shadow softness. This is why I decided to move everything into 3D so that the gobo or the shadow catcher would be different distances from the light and give me a more interesting vibe. This is starting to be a little bit more stable. But yeah, so this one's going around an edge. I guess you could still get that with a projector. This kind of variation, you would need like two different things stacked up, I think, like different depths from the light. All right. Where did this window go? I'm just gonna put this on top for right now. Get a new Houdini. I'm gonna check out a different way to model or make some light reflectors while this render is churning along. I don't know if maybe my noise here needs to be pushed more. Tool shadow? Tula? And what is a Tula? I think my computer's gonna break. I have too many things open. Watermelon ombre. It's pretty nice. Let's just move the window around. So I have some cutouts of like trees and stuff like that. Computer's really mad with me right now. All right. Oh, what a mistake. Get back here. All right, this is good enough, I think. My GPU doesn't like rendering and doing a lot of like window resizing at once. All right, this should be okay. So do another trace. And then my gobos, textures, gobos, I had some like leaf cutouts. So I think maybe starting with like a fern. What is this, Tula? I guess that's more of like, I don't know if I have any in here. Maybe these kind of branches. This is more of like a leaf or has some complexity or whatever to it. So you have a branch, like a straight line, and then some different leaves. Let's just do this. Resample it. This is like an Illustrator or whatever you do. I guess Photoshop, like the live trace or whatever, to vectorize or convert an image to vectors. I guess it's an Illustrator thing, the live paint or live trace or whatever. So just take this JPEG image branches. Something like this. Oh, this is interesting vines. But yeah, you could just find black and white images or whatever online, and then you make some polygons from them. I'm just gonna get rid of that stuff at the bottom. I think you could just do this clip. So we'll just take like a height cutoff, delete stuff above or below it. All right. And maybe do the remesh just to like triangulate it, get a better topology. There's like some triangles or whatever to make that up. I think with the facet node, you can, if you do remove inline points, this is can do a good job of like simplifying the edges a little bit more. So basically it looks for points that are moving like in a straight direction, and then it will simplify it or optimize it. So if you just look at the outline, the alpha channel, it doesn't look too different, but the overall number of points is going from like 1400 to 250 or something like that. So this is a pretty useful way to strip out detail while still preserving the edges or whatever. Yeah, it's a little hidden, like you wouldn't think. The facet node in Houdini is a weird thing that does a lot of different tasks. But yeah, that's a useful way. So it has these parameters that you can adjust, like lower numbers it's just based off of kind of the curvature of the edges, I guess. You could go wild with it. Eventually you just get like weird abstract arts. So I think the default setting still get a good amount of the detail or whatever. So I'm gonna try with these, maybe doing like volume. So this is going to be like a 3D space and scattering points inside of it. Just do like 25 to start with. And then I can instance clone the leaf onto all of those points. So we have our little plant. Someone threw a bunch of fern plants in the air. And maybe do the attribute randomize. Again, by default, this is applying to color. If you do the normal direction, then you just can use it to generate random orientations for the plants. So take a look at this render. This is an interesting vibe. It's pretty cool distortions or whatever. Just gonna kill it for now and grab the node tree, move it over into the main scene. Just call this Gobo shadows. Go inside and just try to stay somewhat organized. So now instead of that stuff in front of the light, we have our set of like leaves or trees or whatever that are up in the air. Can do, maybe they should be bigger or smaller, we'll see. Let's just give it a render and see what happens. My stuff got a little too overexposed. I feel like this toy, I don't know if that could make that guy look a little bit more interesting. I think it's okay. I don't know. It's probably okay. I might just make the reflection a little bit more rough. I don't know if the subsurface is going to slow everything down too much. It's a little bit more interesting that way. Maybe my backdrop, just make it a little bit darker. Then I think with these leaves, you can use the same like attribute noise idea. Just make a copy of that node and put it over here. So over time, these leaves will just float around or something like that. You can probably do the same thing with the direction as well. So just add noise to the directions. And they're kind of like flipping around or something. I don't know if that's going to be too jarring. I guess just take the result and add more noise to the position. We do just like weird distortions to everything. I don't know if this is... Just give that a try. I'm gonna mess around with the light, maybe make it bigger. This looks like it's starting to be pretty interesting. Maybe these things do another attribute randomize with p-scale. That way we can have random variations of sizes on them. Just do it based off of a ramp. Brings life to renders. Yeah, I think so. This kind of thing should be pretty reusable. Like you could just attach it to different lights and get things that I think having motion and depth to it is like the chef's kiss, the sauce, the secret sauce. Can really like make stuff look photographic or whatever. Let's just make some more of these. I don't know if maybe making the area of them, the diamond, the gem kiss. I don't know, maybe making the area that we're placing them in a little bit of a bigger volume or whatever. I'm just gonna go in with the light and just change that around. So if everything is too soft, I'm thinking maybe I've made my light too big. And it might just be a weird setting here where these leaves have gotten like too close to the light itself. Then I'm just gonna take this seed parameter, copy it, and link it up. Let me see where I could put it here. Maybe just with the offset, add it. Just do a random number based off of that seed. So this way it's just a little bit more controllable if you want different parameters. Missed 1 hour again. It's okay, we're just playing around with different ways to generate like shadow catchers or stuff that sits in front of the light. So like in the past, it was just doing a texture projection from a spotlight. Just trying out things today like physically modeling the geometry, just to get the extra mile of stuff. So this trace right now is based off of an image, but I think if I do a stash node right here, this should like embed it in the file. So if I do another share, you should be able to pick this up and be up and running with it. But yeah, I was also doing some procedural noises and stuff. With Houdini, you could do stuff with the COP compositor network. This one was maybe just having this at like a smaller resolution would be quicker. So this, I'm just making a weird kind of like doily or something like that. Don't know if it's hard. So, I mean, it's basically just a 2D thing. Like it's very similar to VopSop, the way that I'm using it here with the VopCop2 generator. X and Y is just 0 to 1 in like UV space. So it's, if you copy and pasted these nodes and run them on a VopSop over a grid, you would get the exact same result as this. There's a lot of other nodes with cops, but I don't use them too much. It's just super slow because it's still uses Vex to run over the pixels, but I don't know if it's their like code behind it is really slow. You compare it with like other, if you do GLSL or Shader Toy or that kind of stuff, you can get a lot more interesting like generators for 2D images and stuff. So we'll go maybe, let's try Vex over pixels. Makes lots of pixels to handle. Yeah, it's pretty slow. There's other ways to do it. Like I think if you do volume and generate a 2D volume, you're kind of, it's the same idea as an image, it's just an array of pixels. Their height fields is kind of like an extension off of that. Like a height field itself is a 2-dimensional volume. So it's basically you're editing an image but in SOPs, but you can do it to generate terrains or whatever, so it's pretty cool. But overall, yeah, it would be cool if they moved more of that stuff to the GPU. So this might be just trying like a higher frequency noise. Maybe this position here is a little too quick to be moving stuff around. So this is looking through the light right here. You can always layer some of these noises. So maybe slow noise, higher amplitude, lower frequency, and then faster moving high frequency noise. Just to simulate kind of like a wind or something like that. I might have too many leaves. I just got sidetracked. I'm gonna keep putting the seed, link it up with other parameters so I can more quickly generate just random outcomes. This should be good enough. I could take this, I think. Just finish it up here. So now it's just super quick to get different distributions of leaves or layouts or whatever. Like something like this is pretty cool. It's a nice composition. Let's just give this one a render and see what it looks like in motion. I think my noise might be able to go a little bit lower with it. It's just a little distracting before. Let's see what happens. Lazy ghoul. Looks like it's still pretty noisy. But yeah, I think having the leaves being modeled in 3D, you get a little bit more interesting, subtle variations of like shadow harshness. I'm just gonna stop this. It's not looking super interesting. I think everything right now is too blurry. So to get stuff sharper, if you start to move it further from the light, closer to the subject, you should get kind of crunchier shadows. Just try this. I think my exposure is just blowing out a little bit. It's a bit odd. Maybe switch up the subject. Just gonna try giving this guy like a lobotomy. Chopping him down to the face and then make it bigger. Alright, we have our weird man. Alien Covenant. You think this looks like the David Fassbender? Pretty good MoGraph stuff. It kind of looks like the Fassbender guy, right? There's someone on Instagram, I forget their name, but they do a lot of pink backgrounds, and then they do funny stuff with characters like clipping through the floor and stuff. Let's go back into the light. Just move the light around as well. Maybe a little bit more of these. This is a pretty good one. This kind of looks like the things that you buy to punch. Let me try this with a render. What is it called? You got a picture of it? Ah, yeah, this does look a lot like it. This is the I forget the part of the movie. Is that the part at the start of it when he's Prometheus? Yeah, that's the shrine that they all like died when they're trying to save themselves from the infection. Here it is. This is what I was thinking. Country Bob, body opponent. It kind of looks like it with the weird like subsurface skin, like a rubber man. You tried Mini Factory. I don't think make it skinny and gold. And then you have the Oscar statue. I didn't know about this. This looks pretty interesting. These are all, yeah, these are pretty high quality. Usually I was searching Sketchfab, but these scans seem a bit better. Thank you for sharing this. I was always looking for this. I see other people using this hand, but I could never find it. Yeah, these are really good to test out stuff. That hand, the claw. Yeah, I'll add this to my resources link. This is really useful. I think it's one of the nicer things about using the built-in stuff that ships with Houdini is that it will still work if I do a file share like this. But in general, it's nice to have a good resource. So if you get this file, most of the links and stuff should work. Like the more references and dependencies I add for doing test scenes like this, it will make it more difficult to restore them to working order. But I think overall that's a really good, really lovely resource. Yeah, it's definitely starting to add some life to everything. Let me just go back in here. I'm gonna try to fight some more of this noise out of everything. Maybe like 1024. I think this can get a bit higher. This might be too slow to render now. I think the subsurface is crushing me. Just forget to use it. So yeah, I think we have a good library or little selection. Like, could try subbing this out with another leaf, maybe the fern. We'll just start to set these aside. I don't know this palm. I think I need to clip this one differently. Any way to use 3D Gobo to influence the atmosphere? Yeah, I think if I just turn on the light, the volume contribution, we could try that out. So yeah, this is starting to look pretty. This is the variation I'm most interested in, is just like that different blurriness or harshness of the shadow. We just finished getting these other ones. So this palm leaf, the texture was coming with other stuff or whatever. Then also just do the whole faces checkbox to keep like the internal holes, whatever. go, should be, I think, the X direction. All right. Have a couple more leaf varieties. Oh my, this was playing the whole time. I'm lost. Alright, there it is. Do you mind showing the texture on the RS light? Yeah, I was doing it at the start of the stream. It doesn't look as good. How many Houdini instances are running? It's too many open scenes at once. People were joking before, when I was at DreamWorks, everyone in the effects department got upgrades to their computers. So I think they went up to like 192 gigabytes of memory or something. Someone was like, oh, amazing. Now I can have every shot that I've ever worked on in my life open at once. So you just never have to close the scene file again. Let's give this a try with the palm leaves. I don't know what's happening here. I guess this, I'm actually seeing the leaf itself. So one thing you can do with Redshift that's pretty nice is if you do visibility, just turn off primary ray visibility, and then it will only affect the shadows that way. So yeah, if we do volume contribution, and then on the ROP, the render settings, volumetric. I don't know how much. Apparently the worm for transformers at ILM could only run on a handful of computers. Yeah, it depends. It seems like ILM, especially their modeling department, they'll over model everything. Like even background characters and stuff will have tons of little details modeled into the surface instead of like doing displacements and stuff. So yeah, this is with a pretty pumped over the top God Ray setup or whatever. Some cool shafts of light. ILM doesn't really mind poly counts since they use Clarice. Yeah, I think that's part of it. They might have gotten better about it, but they were building out more and more like proxy representations and things like that. Like with USD and like building out more flexible render pipelines, you should start to get the ability to like on the fly swap stuff. Like LOD switches or whatever. So yeah, this is pretty murky, pretty good vibes with the tint. Go to the Blade Runner mode. Golden hour, wildfire smoke lighting. It's like for a few weeks here in San Francisco, the sky was just permanently golden hour mode. So yeah, Vegan Nuts was asking about going back to just the texture. So with this, let me just turn the shadows off, turn this light off. Could make, just look through the light number 2 again. So this is using a texture map. I was trying different ones. I can just go back to my folder. So I don't have ones that are super close, but maybe like these branches. I didn't turn my lights on and off properly. I think this light, you just need to turn it off. All right. So yeah, this is using the image. Terrence Malick would go nuts. It's like when they were shooting. This is the Leonardo DiCaprio one with him in the. It's not a Tree of Life. There's one. Revenant, I believe. It's not Terrence Malick, but I was just bringing it up because I was reading when they shot it, they were only using natural lighting, so it took them a really long time because they were like waiting for perfect lighting conditions to get the shots and stuff the way that they wanted to. So yeah, Vegan Nuts, this is using the texture projection. There was a few reasons. Need to see if use the geo foliage. Yeah, so there's a few reasons I was building this out to geo. It becomes a little bit, there's more sliders and stuff to control, but the biggest reason was like having flexibility. So this is a bit uniform in terms of sharpness. If you find like really good footage or gobos, like this one, I've always found it to be a bit better. Just need to adjust some of the other stuff. You can get some pretty good ones that have like some blurriness built into the image and it'll get you pretty far. But then adding like animation to it. I think Jabram, he found a good video that he was projecting that had some animation and stuff built in. So you can definitely, that way will work. But in terms of just having like some more procedural flexibility or madness or whatever, building the stuff out that way seemed to be pretty interesting. Let's just go back, lower exposure. So I always have struggled doing this projection as well. If like the actual light, because it's a spotlight, you'll get the super harsh shadows from it. Just go back to the other light. Turn on the shadows. The RS texture light. Yes, yeah, you could do sequences for sure. So if you take a MP4 or whatever and like convert it to JPEGs, you could start to get some motion. The procedural, I don't know, the procedural approach might be more lightweight or like easier to manage, especially if you don't need to worry about running out of time, like trying to loop your Gobo animation or whatever. And then if you're rendering on like a render farm, it's less geometry or less data you need to link up and upload there and everything. I'm gonna try moving the light over. I think with the leaves and stuff themselves, if you want to display them a little bit more lightweight, sometimes I'll do it just with the ends stop, do like unroll, but keep the display flag on the actual geometry. You can start to like see through stuff a little bit easier that way. Did I lose my parenting? I don't know if I lost it. What the hell happened here? It was working really nicely before. All right. It's back. I think I'm getting too close to this guy. Still too close. The sharpness, great rays of light. Yeah, it's starting. I don't know. I'm having trouble getting like a really good composition with this. It's I guess it's better for certain things, but definitely for the light rays, God rays and stuff is a little bit more interesting. But I think it is just you need to spend a little bit more time kind of dialing it in, I guess. I don't know if my it's just a lot more settings and stuff to manage. I think the redshift like volume attenuation stuff is super difficult to balance as well. So it's starting to be something cool. Let's go back to the fog. I don't know what's going on. I think the subsurface, because this is like non-watertight geometry, the subsurface is messing it up. The fog, yeah, I had it in the Blade Runner mode for a little bit. We could go back to it. Just adjust this character. All right. And maybe take the background as well and go darker with it so it's not as distracting. I don't know. It's a bit messy. Let's see what else we have. Teapot box. The box is pretty cool. Pig. I think I need to get rid of the shader on the pig. All right, I'm just gonna go back to the guy for right now. You were enjoying the Blade Runner fog, Alkama? Yeah, it's hard. It's super hard to dial in and get it working like 100% the way you want it to, but it is pretty cool. I don't know. I always have trouble keeping the fog will kind of flatten everything out pretty quickly. I don't know if it's my phase. I don't know. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to manage. Let's just try this for right now. So I'll just try some other leaf shapes and see what happens. So this was the fern. This is the palm tree, I think. We also had this fern shape. See what that gives us. It's pretty cool. Then this was the original leaves. Some interesting other options and stuff to try out. We could just make everything smaller. Too big. For the shape, just rim light. Yeah, you could try that. I was liking the way this was falling over his eyes. Let me see what happens. Just add another light. You could try this as like somewhat of a fill light, and then maybe with this one. Yeah, reflector could be a good idea. Let me see what happens with this. My own tricks. Yeah, I mean, with lighting and just all that stuff is like, you forget. There's just so many possibilities. It's easy to forget which tricks would work best or whatever. Yeah, I think something over there is pretty cool. Let's try it with a grid. Just do this as a never enough lights. Try this light. Maybe just turn off the primary rays. Just try this as like a bounce thing. I don't know if I need to do it on the other side so that it doesn't shadow itself. Like shadowing the light before it hits him. Maybe I need my main light. Yeah, I don't know if I've messed this up. I'm gonna try making a material for it. It's just like fully bright. You would think it would be reflecting more light. I think the issue was that this whole background thing was bouncing a lot of light, so it doesn't really contribute too much additionally. Like if we go reflect a specific light. Yeah, I'm thinking if I make the backdrop a darker color, then I'll just try going back here to turning off the primary ray. This way can start to get a little bit more specific with it, hopefully. Yeah, I don't know, I think maybe he's starting to do something there. Yeah, I think just directly in area light might be easier to go for right now. Is this thing using a texture still? The hell have I done? Alright. So I'm gonna take this light, number 3. Turn off the volume with it. Bring the spread back. Yeah, I don't know. This might be more like a the main light. I think I'm gotten carried away here with the fog. There's too much junk going on. The day the earth stood still. Alright. I don't know, maybe just getting rid of that background. My rim is pretty trash. Alright, let's try a bit closer. I don't know. I've lost it. Alright, I'm just gonna try to find a better distribution. Oof, my light got too bright. For these leaves, you get a better pattern. I don't know if this, maybe get them back like closer to him. Let me try maybe making the volume bigger. It's just like more of an area that they can be scattered around in. It's pretty cool. I think my volume might have gotten a little too big. All right, let's just find something that's going through his face kind of nicely. I don't know if this is too many. Been having a hard time like balancing. All right, seems like this one's. I don't know. It's something. Let's just do one quick. You can just turn that off. I don't think we're using it. Do one more quick noisy style render. Can save the file. I can stash these other things, so they should be embedded in the file. Let's see if it works. All right, it should be good. So yeah, let's save this, do another publish or share, and take a look at the, where did it go? Animation. This is giving him a weird mood with these leaves. So I don't know if my animated noises or whatever are too, so it looks pretty realistic. It's hard to get settings that will mimic like a good breeze, like a gentle vibration or wind or whatever. All right, let's take another look. So yeah, it's starting to be something somewhat interesting. I think it could still use a rim, but I'm all lit out, lighted out today. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think you could also, another idea you could do with this is like, you could use it to bake texture maps to project. So if you just render this like orthographically or whatever, you could bake shadow textures or something like that. And that might make it easier to, there's less stuff to dial in or whatever if you'd still get some like variation of blurriness from the baking method, but could be a cool idea to try or whatever. More similar to like Substance Designer or something like that. But yeah, it's probably going to be it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Interesting idea. I don't know. It could be a cool, like, reusable tool. Something to revisit. It's always nice to be able to have something like this to add on top, or just to chuck in for your lights to make them good. Gobo go. Go go go. Go go Gobo racer. Yeah, it's a cool thing to add some variation and like subtle photographic elements or whatever. All right, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I hope the people that were checking out the battle, it was a cool time to watch that. Cool ideas from the Art Nouveau school. All right, enjoy the rest of your day.